friends, I might be speechless. It is uncommon for me to be speechless. I usually am speechful. I probably have too much speech. After today's day in court, I am without speech. Okay, it's Thursday, February the 16th, Murdaugh Murders, gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Let me break it down for you because, my mind is blown. Number one, this morning they did like a crime scene reenactor guy, and he came and he broke down and explained how exactly Paul and Maggie were shot. So here's the thing. There's this guy on YouTube who has a channel called The Mob Crew or the MOB Crew. I had never heard of him, but a couple of weeks ago, he apparently took like all the renderings and the pictures and the whatever, and he did a full reenactment. Like he recreated the crime scene and he recreated Paul and Maggie's shootings. And so I was watching that on the bus on my way to work this morning. And so what he explained was exactly what this expert on the stand today explained, although the random dude on YouTube included a few extra details that I had not thought about. I'm going to give you like a broad overview because these murders were gruesome. So according to the expert and the random dude on YouTube, apparently Paul was standing in the feed shed, right? The feed room. And the killer was holding the gun low, probably real casual, like, no, I'm just holding this gun. I'm not going to shoot you. And then shot Paul in the chest, but at a weird angle. I think he expected that because it was a shotgun that like all those pellets would hit Paul and he would fall over dead. Well, we know that that's not what happened. That first shot was not a lethal one. And Paul stayed on his feet and turned and began to walk towards his killer. He saw the person who killed him, his daddy. Then the killer, girls, why do every time I start talking, they start talking? So then the killer, surprised by what happened, starts to back away and then shoots Paul from a very low and odd angle. And so the attorneys in court were like, why would a tall person shoot somebody from an odd angle? The random dude on YouTube is like, yeah, Alec likely tripped over the door sill in the feed room. As he fell backwards, he shot Paul again instead of shooting him dead in the chest, which might have killed him. I have grapes on my teeth. It's a bad look. Instead of shooting him in the chest and killing him instantly, got that weird shot where he shot him in the armpit. The shots went through his armpit, through the side of his ear, and blew off the back of his head, leaving his entire face intact. A horrific, horrific crime scene that the murderer likely did not expect. Maggie hears what's going on, runs up, and she turns her, and she is shot. It was so gruesome. Again, the gun held low. She shot 4 or 5 times. Initially, like in her center mass in the middle of her body, which did a lot of damage to internal organs, but also did not kill her. She went down on hands and knees. Then her killer circled around, shot her from behind. That shot went through her armpit, through her breast, which was pendulous. Ladies, you know what that means. The titty was hanging free. And it went through her head. That shot killed her and flattened her flat on the ground. After she was already flat on the ground, the killer continued to circle around her and then shot her again in the top of the head. Gruesome, gruesome stuff. But it was fascinating that both the MOB crew and the expert on the stand said exactly the same thing. And frankly, I think the random dude on YouTube did a better job. I mean, he didn't have to do it in front of like God and all the world or whatever. And he had models built and everything. But it was really, really fascinating to see. So I was like, okay. And then apparently Judge Clifton Newman was like, yeah, all that shenanigans you pulled yesterday about the roadside shooting. Well, now the roadside shooting comes in. And I thought that meant that they were going to get Cousin Eddie on the stand. Oh, no, they did one better. Now, Cousin Eddie is a problem because he's a narcotics enthusiast and, well, not that reliable. What they did was they told the whole story of the roadside shooting without calling Cousin Eddie. And what they did is they used Alec's own words to convict him. Honey, I was riveted. So Dick and Jim, Alec's attorneys, were like, we feel confident and it is fine. We're going to let the tape play. So what happened is Alec gets shot on the side of the road in a botched suicide for hire, and then tells everybody like, oh yeah, some random dude shot me. He tells this to the police. He's on body camera in the ambulance telling the police, does a composite sketch. The composite was kind of cute, although I think a lot of men are cute, so you could probably tell that if you watch this channel at all. But he does a composite sketch. He does the whole thing like, oh me, oh my. And then he carts his little behind off to rehab, first detox, and then he's scheduled to go to rehab down in Florida. So of course, his attorneys fly down to be with him, charging him $1 zillion, I'm sure. And they're like, dude, tell us what happened. So he says to his attorneys, okay, I'm going to break it down and I'm going to tell you the truth. He confesses that he's a drug addict. He confesses that the roadside shooting was all a setup. And they work out a plan. Okay, you're going to call SLED and you're going to tell him what happened. And we're just going to lay it all out on the table. And then everything is going to be out in the clear. So we watched Alec's the body cam video of Alec in the ambulance. Then we heard the 911 call of him lying to the 911 operator in that crazy wandering call. And then we saw him fresh out of detox. Have you ever known anybody who went to detox? Have you ever been to detox yourself? No judgment, honey. I am also a friend of Bill. Many, many, many year friends of Bill. Me and Bill go back like 25, 26 years at this point. So I do not drink. I enjoy a nice mocktail, but I know some folks. And I know some folks who went to detox, went to rehab, did the whole thing. And when you first get out of detox, it is rough. You are not your best self. Alex was not his best self on this tape. Now, we only hear his voice, but he sounds weak and shaky. And he's, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, I did this and I did that. And somehow I think his attorneys thought he gives his full confession and that everybody's going to absolve him and forgive him. But honestly, what I heard in that confession was a man who was like, okay, I was withdrawing from drugs. I was not thinking clearly. I've been on oxys for like 20 some odd years. And I did this terrible thing. And then the police asked him a very key question. They said, do you owe money to anybody that we need to be looking out for? Is Buster in trouble? And he said, no, I don't owe money to anybody. There's no danger to Buster. Oh, well, Mr. Murdaugh, did you just tell on yourself? And so they asked him several times in several different ways, like, how did you pay for the drugs? How much drugs were you taking? This fool is paying for drugs with checks. That is white privilege. That is you don't even have to be white to have that kind of privilege. That's moneyed privilege. That's white privilege. That's all kinds of... Who pays for drugs with checks? Now, you might pay for illegal drugs with your insurance, like you go to the doctor and get a prescription or whatever. Okay. And then in the course of talking about how, he paid for drugs with personal checks, I don't know where they do that at. He then proceeded to name names. He named all the names and all the people who had helped him in these shenanigans. And honey, the list was long and I was leaning in. They said, oh, in addition to Cousin Eddie, who else have you gotten drugs from? He was like, well, one of my mother's home health aides. Well, Miss Mixon, home health aide, aka drug dealer. Now, God and all the world knows you dealing pills while dealing with his Alzheimer's sick mama. Really, Miss Mixon? Okay. DEA and SLED is somebody gonna be giving you a knock. They gonna come and have a little sit down chit chat with you. You know who else he threw under the bus? He was like, my boyfriend, my son has a girlfriend. The girlfriend's boss was helping me out. Then he named the woman's name. I was like, oh, does her law firm know that she was helping this crooked man? Listen, her name is Brooklyn, I think. Very plain Brooklyn. Brooklyn girl, you need some lip gloss. But what you really, really need to do is change up your whole look by getting rid of that loser, Buster Murdaugh. He has, listen, you and your little plain self could have faded into the background. We wouldn't have even remembered what you look like. Now everybody's looking at you. Your mom and daddy and them is like, If that was my son, if that was my daughter, I'd be like, baby, we love you. You gonna need to relocate to Florida, California. The whole family would just move, everybody. Nope, you dumping him, you blocking his number. We don't know him. We do not know him. And so they ended the day with direct examination of the officer. Ooh, the officer was cute too. I'm a fan of men. Only the pretty ones, but I have discerning taste. If you saw my husband, you would see what I'm talking about. He's very cute, but he's a little jealous too. So don't tell him we had this conversation. But that SLED officer who did I don't remember his name, but you know who he looked like? Richie. I went to college with this dude named Richie. He's now a psychologist. Hey Lee, how you doing? And he's very cute. Lee was cute back in college, and Lee is cute now. Lee is married with children. Lee is not checking for me, although I am quite adorable. But anyway, the cute SLED agent was like, okay, I am writing down all the names. He took all the details. The home health aide is in trouble. Very plain Brooklyn is in trouble. Brooklyn girl, you can fade into the background. We're not going to remember what you look like standing next to that big redhead fool. We're going to remember him because all that bright red hair all over the place. Nothing wrong with having red hair, but having a daddy that's a murderer, well, that could mess up your whole life. Brooklyn girl, go on, set yourself free. You don't need him. You don't need all that mess. And I have come to understand, maybe we know how Alex was tricking up $50,000 a week. I think he was buying drugs, obviously. He was, I'm sure there's some hookers and blow in there too, because, that just all goes together. Opioids, hookers, and blow, that's like the holy trinity or something. That's what you do. All them go together. And then I suspect there's some gambling debts, paying off the sheriff. He had an expensive lifestyle, bribing people, illicit activities. That'll cost you a pretty penny. So no matter how many coupons Miss Maggie clipped, it wasn't going to be enough to keep up with his nefarious habits. The other thing that's interesting was that they said Paul was a little detective and he used to find his daddy's pills. Maybe Daddy was going through a little withdrawal and wanted his pills, and Paul said no, and that's why he got shot. Again, merely speculation. I cannot wait to see what happens tomorrow. It is a holiday weekend, which means it's a work from home day, and I'm going to be in my best work from home pajamas, staring at the TV all day long, living for this cross-examination tomorrow. I want to hear all the details. And after hearing that recording today that Alec made for the SLED agents about the roadside shooting, Jim Griffin and them and Poo Poo, I don't think they care if Alec gets off. I think they care if their bill gets paid. I think they want to get on national TV and make a big show and then be like, oh, it's too bad he got convicted. Because letting that roadside shooting information come in, they threw old boy directly under the bus. And I'm not mad at him. They're like, listen, whether he goes to jail or whether he goes home, we still go get an addition on our houses. They might not care about Alex that much. Listen, you ain't heard this from me, but that boy going to jail. All right. Oh, one last thing. South Carolinians, are you still listening to me prattle on? South Carolinians, if you are in Hampton County and you have been to this case, tell us how the jury is reacting to all of us. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they look like. I don't need to know their names. Somebody online today said, I was in court yesterday and I could see the jury and it's clear that they've already made up their mind. And then nothing else was said about it. What if they made up their mind? So if you could see the jury, do you think they're leaning towards convict or do you think they're leaning towards acquit? I am dying to know. Obviously, the looks on their face won't tell you that much. But I need an inside scoop. From the bottom of my heart, I need an inside scoop. So let us put our hands together and say a sincere prayer to Judy Garland because Jesus is busy taking care of wars and famine and stuff. Do not bother Jesus with this madness. Jesus, God, they have important things to do. Dear Judy Garland, please, 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 let us find out what the jury is thinking. In Liza Minnelli's name, amen. I'll see y'all in the morning.